Hello, my little mathematicians. We're going to practice changing word phrases into algebraic expressions and vice versa. So this is what's known as a word phrase, and these are algebraic expressions. So expressions don't have an equal sign, and they include numbers and variables. That's what makes it an algebraic expression versus just a numerical expression, is they include variables. So we use a variable when it says like a number and we don't know what that number is. So let's go ahead and try and see if we can give these algebraic expressions for the word phrases and then give some word phrases for these algebraic expressions. As always, pause the video, try it yourself, and then unpause it and come back. For the first one, it says m divided by 7. That's pretty straightforward. So you could write m divided by 7. Whatever comes first comes first. Or you'll know that division is sometimes written as a fraction. So whatever comes first would go on top. It's m divided by 7. Either one of those is saying the same thing and are both correct. Okay, again, try these yourself first and then unpause it and come back to check. Product means multiplication. So x times 8, and this is why we don't want to use an x to represent multiplication, because how do I know that that x in between this variable and 8 isn't another variable? So try to use a dot or parentheses. And in fact, we don't even need that. If you have a number touching a variable, that means 8 times x. So 8 times some unknown number. So we could even just write it like that. Not my favorite. I don't like it when the variable's first. I like it when the variable is second and the number's first. But again, those are still all correct. Okay, h plus 4. Pretty straightforward. And for this one, you could use the commutative property and do 4 plus h, but don't get in the habit of that, because if this were saying the difference, well, then it would matter. Like it would have to be the difference of h and 4. The order would matter because you can't switch things when it's talking about subtraction. But for multiplication and addition, it doesn't matter, because let's say this h is 1. 1 plus 4 is the same as 4 plus 1. Okay. 9 groups of W means 9 times W, or you could have, parentheses there, or you could have a dot between them. But again, we're going to stay away from using X to represent multiplication, because otherwise we might think that means like X, Y. It's like, oh, there's two variables. There's a variable X and there's a variable W. No, there's not. There's only one variable. So we're going to stay away from using X to represent multiplication from here on out. 13, take away k. So that's 13 and then taking away k. And that's the only way to write it, because yes, you could go 1 plus 4 or 4 plus 1, but 13 minus 1 is very different than 1 minus 13. So the order matters for subtraction. Quotient, same thing like order matters for subtraction. Order matters for, what is quotient? Division as well. So whatever comes first goes on top of your fraction, or if you're writing y divided by 5, whatever came first comes first. So the first number would go inside the house, and then the second number would go outside the house if you were dividing. Sum means addition, so you have 6 plus d. And since it's addition, technically it doesn't matter. You could have either order. Okay, now this one, yes, less means subtract, but whenever it says less than, that moves it to the back. So it's actually g minus 15, because it's 15 less than something else. Oh, less than that g. So I'm subtracting 15 from that g. That's different than if it said 15 less g. Well, then that's just saying 15 take away g. Okay, so see how this one versus that one, when you have the word than, it moves that number to the back. Okay, hopefully we got that one right. And then for a word phrase, let's see, you're multiplying. So you could say something like 8 times C or the product of 8 and C. Either of those would work. For the next one, you are subtracting. So you could have said something like P minus 2. Why not? Simple and sweet. 2 less than P, or P less 2, or the difference of P and 2. When you use the word difference, the order matters. Whatever comes first comes before the subtraction sign, and whatever comes second comes after the subtraction sign. Okay, so any of those would have worked. Or P minus 2, just keep it simple, and then you know you're right. R plus 10, the sum of R and 10, 10 more than R. Okay, all those would work. The next one, you're dividing. So you could say D divided by 4, or the quotient of D and 4. All of those would work. N minus 13 is a simple one. N take away 13, the difference of a number and 13. Okay. 7 groups of E, 7 times E, the product of 7 and E. All of those would work. X divided by 3, the quotient of X and 3, or, whenever we don't know a number, the quotient of a number and 3. A number divided into 3 groups, or X divided into 3 groups. Okay. Remember, there's several different possibilities. A plus 5, keep it simple, or the sum of A and 5. A added by 5, A increased by 5. Okay. So many different possibilities for these guys. Now, if you got those right, great. If you could only think of like one way to write it and you can't think of any others, why not pause the video, try to think of as many add, subtract, multiply, divide words as you can, and then unpause the video and see if there's any that you would add to your list. Okay, now that you're back with us, for sure for adding, you want sum, but all these words mean added. And if you know them, great. If there's any like, ooh, I didn't know combine meant add, why not add that to your list? Okay, all these words mean add. And then for subtract, difference is a good one to have always. And then, take away, give away, less than, less, leftover. How much more? Or how many more? That means subtracting because you're trying to find the difference between them. Okay, that's a good one to have on your list. Decreased by, fewer than, diminished by is one that not a lot of kids knew. So diminished by. Okay. Another one that you might want to add to your addition list is deposit. If you deposit money into a bank, you're adding to your account. Deposit would be a good addition word. And then withdraw would be a good subtraction word to add. So even though it's not on this list, there's so many other words that aren't included on here. So withdraw might be a good word to add to the subtraction list. Okay, for multiplication, product is good. Multiply, times, groups of. When you're finding the area of something, you multiply. Okay, when you have a fraction followed by the word of some number. And then don't forget, all these symbols mean multiply, but we want to stay away from using an X. And then division, the main one is quotient. If you ever know that you're splitting it up into equal groups or splitting up evenly, or you're trying to figure out how many can fit inside of something, those are all things that mean division. And a fraction is dividing as well. It's the top divided by the bottom. So any of those you already knew, great. And if not, if there's some you didn't know, why not go ahead and add them to your list? And again, I suggest deposit for adding and withdrawing for subtracting. Why not add those? Those are some good ones to add. All right, and if you got all of these right, great job. You're going to do good on the word problems.